In the previous spoiler, it was mentioned that after Luo Feng located the holder of the second 9 Calamities secret tome metal plate left behind by sitting mountain guest, he immediately launched a merciless death strike. However, that alien immortal adept at the law of time seized the critical moment and unleashed time freeze, trapping the golden horned beast and buying himself a chance to escape. Even though Luo Feng eventually broke free of the restraint, due to the unique environment of the main continent, the golden horned beast was unable to catch up in a straight-line chase at maximum speed. You might be wondering, according to the story's setting, mastering one of the 3 profound mysteries of upper law requires at least king-level immortal strength. So why was that alien only at the peak-tier Marquis immortal level? The reason lies in a special opportunity he obtained allowing him to possess low-tier king immortal combat power while still at the peak-tier Marquis immortal. This opportunity is similar to the divine general inheritance Luo Feng obtained in Demon Mountain, only a rank lower, known as divine envoy inheritance. If cultivated to completion, it is sufficient to reach the limit king immortal level. However, the divine envoy inheritance also has a fatal drawback. Once a cultivator accepts and perfects it, their path of advancement comes to an end. They will never be able to break through to universe Venerable. Even so, this inheritance still gave that alien immortal a massive advantage in the early stages of training the law of time, allowing him to grasp time freeze while only at the peak tier king immortal stage. While the law of time can manipulate the tempo of battle, distorting time around an enemy to disrupt their attacks and defense, weakening their combat effectiveness, or accelerating one's own flow of time to enhance power, it is useless for long-distance escape flights. After all, the law of time only allows adjustments to the flow of time within a certain range relative to the user's power, or at best to cause a brief tactical pause, but it cannot alter the true speed of travel from one region to another. On the other hand, within the special environment of the main continent, Luo Feng, without the teleportation divine ability, still struggles to catch up with his opponent, even with the Sure Wu Wing's enhancement. Unless he were to unleash world projection to forcibly suppress the alien immortal's flight speed, but doing so would expose his true identity as merely a world master level. Not only would this drastically reduce his deterrent effect, it could also provoke major alien factions to dispatch king-level immortals to hunt him down, placing him in extreme danger. After weighing his options, Luo Feng decided to deceive the enemy by feigning retreat. After several hours of pursuit, he suddenly shut down the large-scale detector, pretending to give up the chase. Seeing the detector's signals vanish, the alien immortal remained cautious, continuing at maximum speed for 10 more days while frequently changing direction, before finally hiding in a secluded place. In his mind, without the aid of the detector, it would be nearly impossible for Luo Feng to track him across the vast main continent, whose size rivals that of the solar system. But he never expected that Luo Feng could pinpoint his location not by relying on the detector, but by sensing the intense summons emitted from that metal plate. Just as the alien immortal believed that the King's Silver Wing had abandoned the pursuit, Luo Feng had already closed in, with only a few 100,000 kilometers remaining. At such a short distance, the combined strike of the million Zerg warriors under Irina's command burst forth like a tidal wave of destruction. Even with the protection of an F9 class starship and reinforced G-grade cabin defenses, the alien immortal was instantly shaken apart by the overwhelming impact, with a small portion of his divine body forcibly obliterated. When he reformed his divine body, he was shocked to see his pursuer revealed as none other than the King's Silver Wing. Knowing he was no match, he immediately chose to flee. However, the devastating assault had already torn open space, dragging him into the interlayer of space, where countless dense spatial fragments hindered his flight and prevented him from maintaining high speed. The golden horned beast, on the other hand, sped forward unhindered under the boost of the Sure Wu Wings, and in an instant had already caught up from behind. The alien immortal tried to repeat his trick, once again attempting to unleash time freeze to save himself. But the golden horned beast's speed was so terrifyingly fast that he couldn't even lock onto the target. No matter how heaven-defying the divine ability of time freeze might be, at this moment it was useless. After all, among the simulated opponents arranged by the primal Chaos City leader for Luo Feng, there was even an immortal-level destruction beast. As a favored offspring of the original law of time and possessing peak-tier bloodline, the destruction beast naturally far surpassed the alien immortal before him in strength. If not for Luo Feng's earlier carelessness, never expecting that a low-tier king immortal could wield time freeze, how could he have been caught off guard? Having now gained experience in such battles, Luo Feng was fully prepared this time. He continuously shifted position at high speed, leaving his opponent no chance to lock onto him again. Seeing that time freeze was ineffective, the alien immortal could only drive his weapons to entangle the golden horned beast, attempting to slow its speed. But the disparity in weapon grade was far too great, leaving almost no effect on the golden horned beast. In an instant, it closed the distance and hurled a fire god origin crystal, a weapon powerful enough to obliterate even a high-tier king immortal. At such close range, the alien immortal knew death was inevitable and immediately called out to his master for aid. Yet his master was a universe venerable, one of those expressly forbidden by the four pinnacle races to set foot on the extraterritorial battlefield. Even if he could instantly arrive through divine kingdom teleportation and shield his disciple from this devastating force of annihilation, he could not defy such a law. After all, the destructive power of a universe venerable was far too horrifying, where one strike could reduce hundreds or even thousands of troops to dust, directly endangering the survival and growth of entire races. Thus, unless an all-out war broke out, universe venerables were absolutely prohibited from interfering. With no way out, the alien immortal was forced to gamble everything, mustering all his defenses in a desperate attempt to withstand the explosion. But even with the barrier of a G-grade cabin, and even with his plant-type auxiliary lifeform sacrificing itself to shield him, only part of the impact could be offset. At least half of the destructive force still crashed down upon him directly. In the end, his divine body was completely annihilated, dissolving into nothingness. As for the many servants hidden inside the G-grade world ring, though they suffered no direct physical blow, they perished instantly as well. This was because soul slaves were bound to their master's spirit. Once the master fell, their souls were extinguished in turn, leaving them doomed to the same fate of destruction. At such close range, even the golden horned beast could not completely avoid the blast's aftershocks. Yet Luo Feng's trump cards were far sturdier than those of the alien immortal. With the dual protection of the Sure Wu wings and the general grade armor, at least 90% of the terrifying shockwave's force was neutralized. Even so, the less than 10% that remained was enough to instantly shatter the Moyun armor covering the golden horned beast, a clear testament to its explosive might. Fortunately, having already advanced to the immortal level, Moyun Vine could almost entirely ignore damage of this magnitude. You may wonder why the golden horned beast had not worn the Moyun armor before. The reason is that, when compared at the same level, aside from the highest grade Moyun Vine, the physical constitution of the golden horned beast is often 1 to 2 ranks superior. Thus, when their level was equal, the Moyun Vine's protection was nearly meaningless. But things were different now, as the golden horned beast's body was currently only on par with a human marquis level immortal, while the Moyun Vine's resilience had already reached the level of a low-tier king level immortal, making its advantage immediately apparent. More importantly, once a lifeform reaches the marquis immortal stage, so long as the opponent's attack does not exceed the tolerance limit of its soul imprint, it can reshape its divine body infinitely and without cost. This is why they are called the Undying. Under such layered protection, the aftershock landing on the golden horned beast was no more than a heavy hammer blow, where painful for a moment, but incapable of causing any true harm. Of course, as a cultivator with multiple bodies, Luo Feng naturally had no fear of the golden horned beast's death. As long as the life core remained safely hidden inside the G-grade world ring, Luo Feng's true foundation would not be damaged. However, should the golden horned beast fall, the nearly 200 blood river crystals it had previously absorbed would vanish into nothingness, wasted entirely. Knowing he was doomed, the alien immortal could only use the demon clan's network system to broadcast widely within its faction that he was about to be slain by the King's Silver Wing, even attaching precise universe coordinates. This act was meant as a final act of revenge. After all, Zvika had long been offering bounties for the purchase of King Silver Wing's coordinates, and the news had spread across the entire main continent. Although all major races strictly forbid factions from sharing intelligence on the extraterritorial battlefield, laws inevitably have loopholes. The system indeed prevents them from directly transmitting messages to other factions, but it cannot stop private exchanges. What's more, simply handing over a set of coordinates in exchange for valuable treasures, without personally stepping into combat, was naturally tempting to many experts, especially those king-level immortals who had already mastered teleportation. Even knowing that the other side would seize the chance to extort an exorbitant price, Zvika still had no choice but to grit his teeth and agree. Better that than risk the King's Silver Wing fleeing once more and disappearing without a trace. But what enraged him was that, after teleporting over with the aid of his ally, in no more than a few dozen seconds, the target was already gone. At King Silver Wing's speed, there was no way he could have flown beyond their large-scale detection range in such a short time. This could only mean one thing: King Silver Wing's small-scale detector was more advanced than theirs. And so it was. After killing the alien immortal and collecting all the spoils, Luo Feng immediately slipped out of the spatial interlayer back into the original universe, then used his human body to swiftly flee the battlefield. After all, the golden horned beast's massive size made it impossible for the small detector to fully mask its traces, but his much smaller human form could be completely hidden within the shielding field. For this reason, whenever Luo Feng detected powerful enemies teleporting into the area during his high-speed escape, he would decisively shut down the large-scale detector and suppress his speed, lest the ripples of space expose his trail and draw a deadly pursuit. After multiple searches still yielded no trace of King Silver Wing, Zvika had no choice but to set up a precise detection formation within a 100 million kilometer radius with the assistance of his King Immortal ally. Once activated, the array would reveal anything regardless of how faint the aura or how tiny the life form is. Within mere seconds, Zvika locked onto nearly 80 suspicious targets, which he then investigated one by one. With his allies' teleportation aid, he quickly cleared them from suspicion, yet still failed to find any sign of King Silver Wing. The reason was simple: the moment Luo Feng sensed the sudden coverage of this large-scale formation, he immediately switched bodies and used the Masha clan's innate secret technique, replication, to disguise himself as an ordinary rock on the main continent. The Masha clan's camouflage was nothing short of heaven-defying. Not only could it perfectly replicate appearance, but even its aura was completely concealed. Even the most refined detection methods could scarcely distinguish reality from imitation. Fuming with frustration, Zvika refused to relent and instead manipulated the formation's power to indiscriminately bombard all matter within its range. Any material with hardness below E-grade metal was instantly pulverized. Even the Masha clan's replicated body, disguised as a rock, was shattered multiple times by the shockwaves into several smaller pieces. However, due to its energy-life nature, its essence remained unharmed, and it could continue to survive. Still, this Masha clan replica was only at the peak World Master level, so the number of times it could withstand such destruction was limited. While energy life forms are not bound by flesh and blood, they are not truly immortal. If its body were fragmented too finely, its genetic structure would be disrupted. Once a critical threshold was exceeded, it would completely collapse and dissipate into the universe. Fully aware of these risks, Luo Feng did not continue to gamble, and instead called upon an ally who had previously assisted him, King Star Illusion, to teleport him to safety. However, when King Star Illusion arrived, the alien King Immortal, who was actively scanning the area with his law domain, immediately imposed a spatial lockdown over tens of millions of kilometers around Luo Feng, preventing King Star Illusion from instantly whisking him away. Fortunately, under the same spatial lockdown, Zvika's peak-tier King Immortal allies were equally unable to use teleportation. At this moment, the contest came down to instantaneous speed, and in this regard, the golden horned beast held an absolute advantage. All Zvika could do was use every means available to try to interfere with the beast's speed. The two sides' powers clashed, and the distance between them began to shrink. At the critical moment when they were about to be caught, Luo Feng decisively tore open the space and slipped into a spatial interlayer. Within this layer, countless indestructible spatial fragments became natural obstacles for high-speed flight, causing Zvika's pursuing forces to suddenly slow down. Meanwhile, empowered by sure Wu wings, the golden horned beast could effortlessly maneuver among the fragments, its flight speed completely unaffected. Under these conditions, the distance between the two sides rapidly increased, allowing the golden horned beast to soon escape the spatial lockdown, at which point King Star Illusion teleported it to safety. After witnessing King Silver Wing's astonishing flight techniques, Zvika and his allies fully realized that even by joining forces, they could hardly hope to slay him. With the assassination attempt completely thwarted, Zvika had no choice but to spend a fortune compensating his allies. After all, while they were allies, there was no concept of free or mandatory participation in any joint operation, otherwise, it would be difficult to enlist any help in the future. Zvika's battle with the King Silver Wing not only caused him to lose a critical automaton spaceship but also forced him to spend heavily on hiring allies and purchasing intelligence, truly a devastating loss. Thus, to Zvika, King Silver Wing had become an enemy to the death. He was even willing to exhaust nearly all his funds to acquire more advanced mechanical weapons, determined to finally kill the King Silver Wing. Of course, provided they could meet in battle again. Returning to Luo Feng, successfully killing the alien immortal this time not only caused his wealth to skyrocket once more but also earned him the qualification to join the Home Alliance. According to the rules, any human or their allies who can slay a King Immortal is invited to join the Home Alliance. Although the alien immortal's true level was only a peak marquee immortal, the merit evaluation system did not base rewards on actual level but on true combat strength. For instance, if an enemy faction managed to kill the golden horned beast, merits would be granted according to the standard for a high-tier king-level immortal. Yet Luo Feng, at the World Master level, had personally slain a low-tier king immortal. Once this achievement became known, it immediately caused an uproar within the Han Alliance, with numerous universe venerables questioning its authenticity and even demanding the battle footage for verification. Only when they discovered that the video had been secured with extremely high-level permissions set by the Primal Chaos City leader did they stop doubting. After all, to receive such attention from the Primal Chaos City leader was proof of Luo Feng's extraordinary strength. As for the Primal Chaos City leader himself, after viewing the footage, he became intensely interested in Luo Feng's opportunities and potential. Luo Feng, however, remained unaware. At that moment, he was completely absorbed in the joy of organizing his spoils of war. Most thrilling of all was the metal plate he had long coveted. The inscriptions within it fully completed the second stage cultivation content of the Nine Tribulations secret tome. This meant he would once again break through the constraints of the universe's operation, allowing his life gene level to undergo a completely new leap. In addition, the treasures Luo Feng obtained from the alien immortal were even more valuable than those he had previously acquired from Zvika. What delighted Luo Feng even more was that among the spoils of war, he discovered a legacy crystal. It was precisely with the help of this crystal that the alien immortal had been able, even at a low-tier king immortal level, to unleash the nearly godlike time freeze ability. However, this legacy crystal was a heritage of the time lineage, and the activation of its full potential would still require an extremely long period. For Luo Feng, it could not yet serve any practical purpose. Thus, he decisively contacted Primal Chaos City leader to seek the most appropriate course of action. Yet whether to immediately exchange it for hundreds of billions of merit points, or to save it for a divine general inheritance over 100,000 years later, both options held irresistible, unique appeal. After much deliberation, Luo Feng found it impossible to part with the crystal and chose to retain it for the time being, waiting for a crucial moment to make a final decision. Having consulted with the Primal Chaos City leader on the optimal handling, Luo Feng then devoted himself entirely to cultivating the second stage of the Nine Tribulations secret tome. With the deepening of this supreme secret technique, his life gene level was certain to achieve a new leap. So, what astonishing changes would the second stage cultivation bring him? And what opportunities would await him as he first entered the Han Alliance? Stay tuned for the next spoiler, where I will reveal it all. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching this video. Wish you a wonderful day.